Good evening, and welcome to the Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Thank you for joining us tonight, and I now call this meeting to order. Our board clerk, Julie Mitchell, will take roll call this evening.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, both Shauna Etten and Andy Coe will be absent this evening. For the record, we have Sal Camarada, Chris Johnson, Mike Roselli, Sean McAndrew, Jeff Moncrief, Diane Mayo, Ken George, and Ruben Moore present this evening.
Thank you. So the Cary Community Plan will continue to be the guiding document for this board. Our role is to function as citizen advisors to the council, who will make the final decision on all rezoning activity. Your citizen opinions based on the Cary Community Plan document play a very important role in advising our leaders. While this is a public meeting, it is not a public hearing. There's no opportunity for the public to speak during this meeting. If you have comments about any of these items, we encourage you to reach out to staff by email or phone. You may also reach out to board members through email. You could also contact your council members directly through email or during the Public Speaks Out portion of any regular scheduled meeting. These meetings may be streamed live on Cary's website and will be posted to YouTube. All past Planning and Zoning Board meetings are available to view on YouTube. Now we will adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting. Would someone be willing to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and we'll also approve the regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our October 28th meeting?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. So we'll move into our first case tonight. We have 22 REZ01, Augusta rezoning. Our first item will be presented by Rachel Smith. She will share the staff's presentation. Following the presentation, the applicant will share their remarks. All board members will have an opportunity to ask questions of staff and the applicant after the presentation. Ms. Smith, please proceed.
Good evening, Board. This is a request to rezone 10.94 acres with an initial town of Cary zoning of R12 CU. The site is located on the north side of Green Level West Road and is currently developed with one detached dwelling. Nearby neighborhoods within Cary's jurisdiction include the Autumnwood Developments and the estates at Weddington. Further to the west is the Green Level Trail development, which is presently under construction. Properties south of Green Level West are within Apex's jurisdiction. The American Tobacco Trail is approximately a half a mile to the west. The site is currently located in Wake County with the county zoning of Residential 40 watershed. According to Cary's GIS data, a small portion of the site may be impacted by stream buffers. Field determination of such features is required at the time of development plan review. According to the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Master Plan, in addition to the American Tobacco Trail a mile to the west, half mile to the west, the Flat Branch Greenway is a quarter mile to the east, and the White Oak Creek Greenway is to the south across Green Level West Road, with access via Willow Rock Lane. Green Level West Road is designated as a 4-lane median divided thoroughfare. The town of Apex's corporate boundary is to the south of the roadway centerline. Apex has also designated Green Level West Road to be widened to a 4-lane median divided roadway. The site's frontage will be expected to meet Cary roadway standards. There is no current or planned transit service in the immediate vicinity of the subject property, and the parcel is adjacent to the Cary town limits. An annexation petition has been submitted. The proposed zoning is Residential 12 conditional use. The proposed zoning conditions include limiting the use to detached dwellings at a density of 2.02 dwelling units per acre, a community gathering space of 3,500 square feet, which exceeds the amount otherwise required by the LDO for a site of this size by 1,100 square feet, and a commitment to build the unbuilt portion of Ridgeback Road to the north of the Autumnwood neighborhood. Additionally, the calculation of lot sizes shall not include areas located within a riparian buffer. The streetscape width on Green Level West Road will be increased above the LDO minimum by 10 feet to a 60-foot Type A streetscape, And barriers will be erected at the connection to Autumn Season Lane in the Autumnwood neighborhood until the 5th certificate of occupancy has been issued. As it relates to the move chapter, connectivity to the site is provided by Green Level West Road on the site's southern frontage. The site will also connect to the north at Autumn Season Lane, an existing stub street within the Autumnwood neighborhood. Approximately 500 feet off-site and to the north of the subject property is Ridgeback Road, which is an existing gravel road that has been paved in part. Ridgeback Road has an unpaved gravel section, approximately 400 feet long, between the roundabout with White Oak Church Drive and Chestnut Walk Drive, which is important for connectivity between the Autumnwood subdivision and the White Oak Elementary School. To resolve this, the Augusta developer has committed to funding and constructing the missing road segment. This work will be completed before the first residential lot plat is recorded. The road will also be upgraded to meet Cary's residential collector avenue standards, in line with the Imagine Cary community plan. This image shows the current condition of the road. Staff has evaluated the proposal against the Imagine Cary community plan. The site, as shown by the blue star, is located within the Green Level Special Planning Area, neighborhoods west of Flat Branch sub-area. This special planning area supports a gradual downward transition in density, moving west from NC 540 towards the Chatham County line, with areas west of Flat Branch Stream not to exceed about 2.5 dwellings per acre. Additional policy guidance includes shielding development from thoroughfares, providing context-sensitive design, and a predominant land use of detached dwellings on lot sizes of a quarter acre or more. The proposed R12 zoning, with lots of 12,000 square feet, is not out of keeping with the area's current land use pattern and generally meets the policy guidance of the special planning area, as well as guidance in the SHAPE chapter. When looking at the LIVE chapter, we note that policies for neighborhood character, housing choice, and infill are applicable. The proposed R12CU zoning aligns with surrounding neighborhoods, and while the proposal is of a slightly higher density than the Autumnwood neighborhood to the east, it is similar to Autumnwood North to the northwest and the estates at Weddington to the west, and is of a lower density than the Green Level Trail development to the west. Additionally, the rezoning is for detached homes, matching the area's rural suburban vision and supporting context blending with nearby developments for compatible neighborhood transitions. When looking at the SERV chapter, the commitment to the increased streetscape buffer on Green Level West Road, the additional community gathering space, and platting lots exclusive of stream buffers may have environmental benefits and contribute to the urban tree canopy. A neighborhood meeting was held on March 9th of 2022, followed by a voluntary second neighborhood meeting on March 20th of 2024. A second neighborhood meeting is encouraged to update neighbors when there is a lapse in time. There were 21 attendees at both meetings. Questions and concerns related to the current state of Ridgeback Road as an unpaved street, traffic impacts, buffers, landscaping, pedestrian access to greenways, and the scope of the project and construction timing. There has been intermittent but ongoing communication from neighbors since the first neighborhood meeting. Additional information was provided for reference in the staff report. At the Town Council public hearing in September, there were 5 written comments and 5 speakers. Comments included the current state of maintenance on Ridgeback Road, the potential future development of adjacent properties, the proposed development density, construction traffic, stormwater concerns, local school enrollment caps, and concerns with homes and development elements in Autumnwood. Council had questions and comments related to construction traffic, adjacent properties and development densities, the gathering space and pedestrian connectivity, LDO requirements, and they commented upon power line undergrounding and roadway jurisdiction practices and the timing of transportation improvements. Since the Town Council public hearing, the applicant increased the community gathering space commitment by an additional 1,000 square feet from 2,500 to 3,500 square feet, offered additional information on the commitment to provide off-site roadway improvements to Ridgeback Road, updated the associated map label on Exhibit A1 to Ridgeback Road Gap, and added a new condition to prevent construction traffic access to Autumn Season Lane until after the issuance of the 5th certificate of occupancy. Construction traffic will only have the option of Green Level West Road until the barriers are removed. The barriers to Autumn Season Lane, as described in the offered condition, will be a type or installed in such a way that fire and emergency service access will not be impeded. Overall, staff finds the rezoning to be consistent with the Imagine Cary Community Plan. The proposed use of detached dwellings and a density of 2.02 dwellings per acre is in keeping with the densities and use recommended by the Green Level Special Planning Area, as well as the Live, Shape, and Move chapters by providing environmental benefits, increased connectivity, and appropriate transitions, while mitigating the impact of construction on nearby residents. This concludes my presentation. The applicant's representative, Ashley Honeycutt-Terrazas, is here to provide comments, and afterwards I'm available for questions.
Hello, good evening, members of the Planning and Zoning Board. My name is Ashley Honeycutt-Terrazas with Parker Poe, 301 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, who's also the property owner, Shenandoah Homes. And also here with me is Michael Jeska from Shenandoah, who's available for questions as well. So thanks, Rachel. Again, just going to make a few comments about the zoning case and the zoning conditions and how we got here tonight. This case was actually filed in January of 2022. Shenandoah Homes has built several residential subdivisions in this area of Western Cary in the past 10 years. They built the adjacent Autumnwood Phases 1 and 2, and that will connect to this Augusta site and Autumnwood North across from Ridgeback Road to the north. Shenandoah's intent for this community is that it be very similar to the other Cary neighborhoods around it, connected to that Autumnwood neighborhood, but it will have its own HOA. So with the zoning conditions we've offered, there'll be a maximum of 22 single-family detached lots, likely varying sizes, kind of based on this awkward shape of the property, but of no less than 12,000 square feet. And if you've driven over there, you've seen the quality and the architectural style of the homes that Shenandoah plans to build in this community, and of course will be built in conformance with all of the high standards of the LDO with respect to the frontage improvements, neighborhood street standards, community gathering space buffers, Cary stormwater control standards. In short, it will be a relatively small residential subdivision that fits into the fabric of the existing development in the area. This sort of housing is still needed in Cary, and bringing 4,000 Green Level West Road into Cary and developing it pursuant to the zoning district we proposed and the zoning conditions that we've worked on with staff and neighbors is consistent with the Cary Community Plan and the Green Level Special Planning Area guidance for this property. Just going to run through the zoning conditions quickly, add a little more context. And also those changes we've made since the council meeting. As I mentioned, single-family detached lots, no more than 2.02 units an acre, no more than 22 lots. Before the hearing, we also work with staff on those conditions that are typical of the green level area to not include those stream buffers in the lot size calculation for a more environmentally sensitive lot design. Also worked with staff on a condition that will require a wider streetscape buffer than the LDO requires. This site doesn't have much frontage on Green Level West, but the SPA does call for wider streetscape buffers. And so we did look at other surrounding developments and Cary along Green Level West and came up with a condition that would ensure the streetscape buffer is consistent with those other developments. Also made some revisions to the condition since the public hearing back in September based on the feedback we got from council staff and neighbors. First, we heard feedback that additional community gathering space would enhance the community, and so prior to that meeting, we committed to an additional 1,000 square feet, so 3,500 square feet of community gathering space total. So even though it will be a small community and a relatively small, almost 11-acre site, we wanted to commit to providing a meaningfully sized gathering space for future residents to address this concern. Second, we heard from neighbors and from council members about construction traffic using the streets in the adjacent Autumnwood. And while, just based on the size and likely layout of the development, it's unlikely that construction traffic would be going through Autumnwood as it'll be, coming off of Green Level West Road. We did want to offer the Autumnwood residents some assurances of that. So we've added a condition to install a barrier at the Autumn Season Lane connector road before any major site work begins. And after the 5th, until after, I'll just say that I guess there could still be some construction traffic after this barrier is removed, but we're just trying to balance the connectivity and the emergency service circulation and access once there's actually residents living in Augusta. So, and I did just want to mention that we heard at the hearing and have heard throughout the process concerns and complaints not necessarily related to the annexation and zoning of Augusta, and we've worked with staff over the past year to address what we could, and that work continued after the public hearing. Shenandoah staff had another meeting with the Autumnwood neighbors after the public hearing and has provided some of the improvements to their stormwater ponds and some additional picnic tables in their gathering spaces that they had requested. Not necessarily, again, this is not necessarily related to Autumnwood, to the Augusta development, but we have continued that work with the Autumnwood neighbors. And finally, in the Augusta rezoning case, we made a few technical revisions to our 4th zoning condition, which is the condition to construct the Ridgeback Road gap that Rachel just described. I heard a lot about that in the early part of this process, and we've gone through a lot of work to be able to offer that. So those revisions that we've done since the public hearing were based on feedback we got from legal and planning, just to make the condition clearer. But this off-site commitment came from months of working with the adjacent Autumnwood and other neighbors. It's a big part of why this case has taken so long to work through the process. We're trying to figure out a solution that we could offer with this development to address the concerns about the existing issues with this unbuilt portion of Ridgeback Road between the roundabout at White Oak Church and the built section of Ridgeback Road that connects to Autumnwood that the residents of Augusta will also likely be using. Like I said, it wasn't easy to resolve. The gravel sections on private property in the county, there's no public right-of-way there. So we had to work extensively with the town attorney's office, with Matt over there, and the private property owners to figure out a way to get that right-of-way into Cary and the rights to be able to feel confident that we can build this section, fix the issue, and then commit to that in a zoning condition for the Augusta development. Both of the property owners on either side of the gap came to speak and spoke in support of this during the public hearing. So we know them, we've been working with them. They're actively trying to help Shenandoah resolve this existing issue. And it may seem like a small section of road, but it's taken a lot of coordination. So with that said, it's been a long road to get here. Staff have been great guides, great to work with, and it's a small 20-ish home project, but we've worked very hard to make it consistent with the Cary Community Plan policies. So thank you all, and we're happy to answer any questions at the appropriate time.
Great, thank you. So before we start with the question and answer section, I guess I would just remind folks that the Cary Community Plan is in place to guide development in Cary. As you think about your questions, keep in mind how this proposed case fits or does not fit to the community plan. When making a motion, it would be helpful to describe how you see your motion impacting the Cary Community Plan, for example, with work, shape, or live chapters. While this is not a requirement, it would help the council understand how you think and how the case applies to the plan. So I guess at this point, we would offer an opportunity for any members that can start down there with you, Sal, I guess, and we'll just kind of work our way this way.
I don't think I have any questions. I've got a comment on that Ridgeback Road issue. I mean, it seemed like it was a big issue for everybody, and it's not even on the site, and the developer is willing to do the work. I think that's a pretty big concession, so that's my comment.
Yeah, that was the same question I had, but Ridgeback Road, is it going to be constructed with curb and gutter for that section that's being built?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so I agree. That was the only thing I had. Looks good.
I don't have any questions.
After it gets built, does that section of Ridgeback fall under the town of Cary for maintenance?
So it's going to be built to collector standard, but I
Okay.
don't think there's an automatic change of maintenance. Ongoing discussions occur with NCDOT and Cary.
Got it. Thank you.
Diane?
No questions.
Ken?
Yeah, a couple of things. So the averaging of the buffer at 60, it said the minimum would be 40, but it averages 60. What's the stated minimum for our?
So
50 is a standard minimum. We're going to
So-
average 60.
Yeah, so the LDO does allow averaging.
Okay,
The reality of this site is that there's a little over 200 feet of frontage, so the ability to buffer by much is by the time you put a drive in, there's probably not a whole lot of wiggle room when you do the math.
okay,
But it will be per the LDO.
okay. And then on a question on the construction traffic. I understand that it's great concession, great to be able to block that till the 5th CO. I'm familiar with, I'm trying to think of which neighborhood that I saw being built, that they'd put a sign up that said no construction traffic. Can such a sign go up and stay up, thinking about the neighbors until the neighborhood's built out? Because if the barrier comes down after 5 houses, I mean, obviously it's not convenient to drive through a little neighborhood to get there. But some people don't do convenient things, they just do other things. And so I'm just wondering how to protect those neighbors from having construction trucks coming in and out of their neighborhood after that 5th house and after the barrier comes down.
So that was seen as compromise language. Certainly, a different certificate of occupancy could be worked out.
No, I don't have a question about the certificate of occupancy. I'm wondering even after, if there's a legal way. I don't know if because I feel like we're trying to take care of these neighbors in the other neighborhood. What are the standards, maybe from traffic, to be able to just leave a no construction traffic sign up? And whether it's just out of the courtesy of those neighbors until such a time as construction's done and all the houses are up. Is that a thing we do?
So I'm going to pull up the way that the condition is worded. Yep, come on.
So when they do this, they're going to be dedicating the road to the public, and that opens it up. So the only legal way to keep it shut is to wait on opening the roads. And if they do that, then when they sell these houses, these lots, you would have to, it'd be very complicated. So the way that you limit construction traffic is through a condition like you're seeing. So you would have to up the amount of certificates of occupancy, or you'd have to do something to do that.
So are you saying that the it would be illegal for the Cary to put a sign up that says no construction traffic?
Yes, you can't, we do not have the authority, once a public right-of-way is opened, we do not have the ability to limit the type of traffic that uses that roadway. It's either all or nothing.
Okay.
That's a simplification. There are rare circumstances, but for the most part, yeah, we can't do what you're talking about. Like, there's no legal method.
No.
Cary doesn't have the authority to do
We don't have the authority for courtesy signs or anything.
I mean, you can put up the sign, but if someone goes through it, we have no enforcement.
Well,
mechanism.
that's my point.
Yeah, we have no way to enforce that kind of regulation.
So even an unenforceable no construction traffic sign can't be put up?
You could potentially do that, but then, I mean, there's no teeth on it. It would be like, hey, please don't do this. But that's all a concession that they would have to put in as a.
Oh, that's all I was asking.
Yeah.
If there's a way that, I know there's, rules, but also, there's places, there's things we do that are just, could be whether it's enforceable or not, that wouldn't bother me. I was just asking if that could go. It just seems to make sense to me for those other neighbors. It'd be a nice thing to do.
We traditionally try not to bluff. If we say we're not going to be able to do something, or we try to prohibit something, we want to make sure we can actually enforce that. But yes, there's nothing stopping that from legally happening, and asking nicely, but it's not something that the town of Cary traditionally does.
Okay. And I think that was it. Oh, you get.
And Michael Jessica, Shenandoah engineer on the project. Your right-of-way landscape buffer question, our minimum is 50, so we are almost right at the 60 the entire time. And then with construction traffic, Shenandoah does everything from engineering to grading and design to home building, so we're all in-house, and we'll make sure to tell every part of our company that we are going off of the main road. We are not going through the neighborhood, and so we can control it from start to end.
Okay, so that's all the subs, et cetera.
Exactly.
Awesome. That's awesome. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Ruben, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I've got one. There's a chart, the plan conformance charts in the agenda packet. under engage policies, I think it works out to be page 102. There's a PRCR number 2, provide Cary citizens with a highly functional, safe, well-maintained greenway network that provides recreation, transportation, and education opportunities and wildlife benefits. That box is checked, and so I'm wondering what elements are in the plan that meets that goal.
Yeah, I see your point. There's no direct trail connectivity on the, adjacent to the site as per the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Master Plan. There is in the vicinity trail connectivity, but not directly related to this site.
So that gets a check mark, that it's in what, just conformance then? Like nothing's required, so it meets the requirement?
That was an oversight.
Oh, okay. Well, I had a suggestion related to that.
Sure.
It looked like in the neighboring neighborhood to the east, which I think they said they built also, I think there is a trail connection. So could they do something in their development, maybe through just neighborhood street connectivity, maybe it identifies access to that connector?
So like an on-street facility,
Yeah, it's a
perhaps?
neighborhood. I mean, you don't need a special facility. Most people can bike and walk in the street. Well, I'm assuming there might be some sidewalks.
Autumnwood, they did build it, but it's all turned over to the residents now, so that's all the HOA. And we are providing pedestrian via the Ridgeback Road. That was one of the big concerns of the neighbors, that they have sidewalk up until the gap, and then they don't have any pedestrian facilities to get over to the elementary school.
Right, that makes perfect sense.
So that was one of the big,
Okay.
since we're building it to the collector road standard, there will be pedestrian connectivity now for all those folks who are currently walking their kids down a gravel road.
So if somebody wants to bike from the new neighborhood
Yeah.
to the Greenway, they just go through the HOA and kind of up to them to say if they like it or not?
Are you talking about like
Not to Ridgeback, but to the Greenway connector that's on the,
on the other side?
on the east side of the existing neighborhood.
Yeah, there's already a section of Greenway there.
So I'm thinking, let's make sure this neighborhood can get to that access.
Via the sidewalks that run through Autumnwood.
Or in the street if
Or
you're
in the street,
biking.
yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
thank you.
All right, now, really, I was just curious about the construction traffic, and I think, Ken, you got that. The fact that, practically, people will come in and off of Green Level, and the applicant intends to instruct folks to go that way, I think is a fair concession there. Any other questions or comments from the group? If not, then we would like for someone to make a motion about 22 REZ 01 Augusta rezoning, and the motions are provided in your package.
I move that the board find 22 REZ01 consistent with the comprehensive plan and all other applicable plans for the reasons set forth in the staff report presentation and discussion by the Planning and Zoning Board.
Second.
A second? All right, any further discussion on the motion?
A lot of good hard work.
I would agree. I think that there's been a lot of concessions of improving a road that's not even adjacent to the property. It's been a long time for a small property, so we appreciate your cooperation with our, with the town and the governing bodies here. All those in favor, please state aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our second case for the evening, and that's 24 REZ 04 Wellington Park PDD amendment. The second item is on the agenda, and Aaron Puckett, Principal Planner, will share the staff's presentation. Following the presentation, the applicant will share their remarks. All board members will have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff and the applicant after the presentations. Ms. Puckett, you may proceed.
Thank you, and good evening, Board. This is a request to rezone approximately 1.08 acres located at the intersection of Thurston Drive and Wellingborough Drive. The site is within Wellington Park and is located north of the Wellington Park Shopping Center. The Marla Durrell Park and Kids Together Playground is located to the west. For additional context, a previous rezoning request for office uses on this site was denied by council in 2021. According to Cary's GIS data, there are no stream buffers impacting the subject site. Field determination of such features is required at time of development plan review. Both Thurston Drive and Wellingborough Drive are collectors on Cary's future roadway widths map. Wellingborough Drive is built to its ultimate cross-section, while Thurston Drive requires several feet of right-of-way in order to accommodate the full cross-section. There are existing sidewalks along both site frontages. The Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Master Plan does not propose any greenways within or immediately adjacent to the site. The Hinshaw Greenway Trail is located approximately 1/10 of a mile west of the site, which connects to Thurston Drive through the Marla Durrell Park. The site is currently zoned Planned Development District Major, or PDD Major, and is part of the Wellington Park PDD. Specifically, this parcel is designated as Parcel C2, or Commercial 2, with nursery school as the only permitted use. This use would most closely align with a daycare use as defined in today's LDO. The existing PDD also designates 25-foot streetscapes along both of the site frontages. And the applicant proposes a PDD amendment in order to change the parcel designation, which currently makes up the entirety of subdistrict C2, to TH1, or Townhouse 1, in order to develop townhouses. The applicant has also offered the following PDD development standards: a maximum of 7 townhouses, which is approximately 6.5 units per acre, a 25-foot Type C streetscape along Wellingborough Drive, a 25-foot Type A streetscape along Thurston Drive, a commitment to alley-loaded townhouses, which would front on Wellingborough Drive. Dimensional standards such as height and setbacks would default to minimum requirements from LDO Chapter 6. And all units will be wired for future electric vehicle charging in their garages. An analysis against the Imagine Cary Community Plan found that policies in the Live, Work, Shape, and Serve chapters apply. Regarding the Live chapter, the site, although small, does somewhat contribute to housing choice in the area, especially as Wellington Park's housing stock is primarily detached dwellings with no existing townhouse neighborhoods in the PDD currently. The small undeveloped site also appears appropriate for a residential infill project. And the related work policy regarding diverse housing needs could be addressed by the provision of this housing type. The Shape chapter also addresses in how these projects should provide appropriate, context-sensitive transitions. In this case, the small site is bounded by Wellington Park open space and 2 collector avenues. And the proposed use transitions from the Wellington Park Shopping Center across the street to lower density residential portions of Wellington Park to the north, so it could meet these policies. At the same time, the streetscapes proposed are slightly narrower and along Wellingborough Drive less densely planted than the LDO would otherwise require. The PDD proposes to meet minimum dimensional standards for townhouses per the LDO. However, staff note that increasing the minimum lot width for a townhouse development would help assure certain site design elements related to development quality, such as sufficient garage and driveway parking, townhouse lot plantings, and other items which could more directly meet this policy. And similarly, reduced streetscapes do not directly address this policy. Regarding the Serve chapter, the commitment to wiring for future EV charging can help address sustainable energy policies. The reduced streetscape planting rate along Wellingborough Drive does potentially reduce the number of preserved or replanted trees on the site, although staff notes that the applicant's proposal to front units on Wellingborough Drive would be inconsistent with that dense Type A planting standard that would more fully hide the fronts of the units. The Future Growth Framework designates the site as being on the edge of a traditional neighborhood. These areas can support a moderate housing mix, including smaller residential types such as townhouses if located in discrete pockets, particularly within larger master plan developments. The small site, area, and location within a larger PDD could support the provision of townhomes at this location. A neighborhood meeting was held in April of this year. 12 citizens participated and expressed concerns about site drainage, traffic impacts, and potential light impacts. Staff received one follow-up email from a citizen simply seeking information about the case. A public hearing was held in September. 2 citizens submitted written comments, one in support of the rezoning and one in opposition. There was one citizen who spoke, who owns the adjacent open space parcel in Wellington Park and hopes to develop the open space in the future for a residential use. However, we note the zoning of that parcel is not under consideration as part of this rezoning. Council comments and questions were summarized in your staff report for this evening. And since the public hearing, the applicant made minor clarifying changes to language on the PDD document, and no substantive changes were made. Staff's preliminary finding is for consistency with the Imagine Cary Community Plan. We found the proposed use on a small infill site is supported by several LIVE chapter policies, as well as the transitions policy of the SHAPE chapter. Wiring for future EV charging also helps at least partially meet one of the SERVE policies. We do note some SHAPE and SERVE chapter policies could be more fully met if streetscapes met LDO minimum requirements and the developer committed to exceeding certain dimensional standards for the development. But overall, the proposal does appear to be consistent with the future growth framework designation of traditional neighborhood and the noted plan policies. This concludes my presentation. Glenda Topp, the applicant's representative, is here to provide comments, and then I'm available for questions.
Great, thank you.
Good evening, board and members of the board. My name is Glenda Topp, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant. Staff did an excellent job going over the proposal. I'll just touch on some key points. As staff pointed out, this is an amendment to Wellington Park, and it's important to note that the original PDD was approved in 1988. The property is currently approved for a nursery daycare. It's approximately 1.08 acres, and as staff pointed out, is located at the intersection of Wellingburg Drive and Thurston Drive. The designation is traditional neighborhood, and townhomes is a permitted use in that category. Since the approval of the PDD in 1988, development code changes and modern nursery daycare requirements make development unsuitable for this site for a daycare. I don't know if any of you had watched or were at the meeting at council, but the owner of the property did come forward and point out that she had contacted several nurseries, daycare, to try to get them to come, and they all were told her that the site was too small. By zoning condition, only a maximum of 7 townhomes are being proposed. We are aware of the requirements of the LDO and have agreed by zoning condition to abide by all the dimensional requirements of the LDO, and all the units will front on Wellingburg Drive and served by a rear. One of the reasons for the maintaining the 25-foot buffer or streetscape is the homes will be fronting Wellingburg and adjacent to Thurston, and we feel that the 25-foot buffer is appropriate given the location of the homes. As staff pointed out, the buffer on Wellingburg is a type C, but we have increased on Thurston Drive to a type A buffer, which is an opaque buffer. Both of the roads do have sidewalks. We have also clarified the amendment for dimensional standards that points out that if any changes occur while we haven't submitted the proposal, we would have to comply with any changes. So it's not just the requirements today of the LDO, it would be also the requirements in the future. And lastly, we are proposing that all the units be wired to 60 amps in the garages to support electrical vehicle charging. I do want to answer the question, why is this rezoning appropriate? Townhomes are consistent with the residential nature of Wellington Park. The proposed use provides missing infill housing in a walkable context to commercial development and Marla Durrell Park, a high-quality residential buffer, is being provided between commercial properties in the core Wellington Park neighborhood, thus providing an excellent transition to the detached residential homes in Wellington Park. As staff pointed out, both infill and transition are both goals of the Cary Community Plan. Staff also mentioned a variety of housing types. Currently, Wellington does not have townhomes. This housing that doesn't currently exist in Wellington Park. And again, as we pointed out, we have increased the buffer along Thurston to a type A buffer, and the proposed development will have minimum impact on traffic. In closing, the proposed rezoning is consistent with the adopted Cary Community Plan, and in our opinion is the best use of the property for a site that has remained vacant since 1988, and the zoning will solidify the future land use as a desirable neighbor to the Wellington Park community. It's also important to point out that this site, as staff pointed out, did come in earlier as office. Having had experience with Wellington, I want to point out that it's important to note that the HOA was supportive of the proposed use, and the majority of the homeowners in Wellington also support the use of townhomes in the development of Wellington Park. I'm here to answer any questions, and the applicant is also.
Terrific, thank you.
Thank you.
So that gives us an opportunity for the board to ask questions, and I guess I'll start with you, Ruben, on this end this time.
Yes, I'm just curious which roads the alley will connect on, one or the other, or would it be a loop?
So it would essentially have to be a loop. Our standard specs require an alley to connect to two public streets.
Thank you.
Got to be a record to have two rezonings in a row that aren't multifamily. The saving the mature trees and this, I give an A+ on transition. I think this is a great use, and I was very familiar with the commercial thing because there were a lot of residents that spoke out, friends of mine, and it was contentious because no one wanted commercial. This is a great thing to put, a great transition, not just the tree transition, but to put townhomes on the edge into a single-family neighborhood is great.
Diane?
No questions. I agree with the positive aspect of the transition there.
John?
I'm just wondering why not a type A for Wellingborough Drive? You know, just with the alley, but they're saying they're going to front Wellingborough. I'm thinking, well, where are the front doors realistically going to be? And wouldn't I want, as a potential homeowner, to actually have something a little more dense, you know, on Wellingborough as well? So I just, curiosity to maintain, you know, the look, you know, why not both at type A?
And probably, and not to put words in the applicant's mouth, but I think it makes sense to, if you're going to front the units on Wellingborough, so the front of the houses are going to face that way. If you think about our type A standard, that's an incredibly dense planting rate, so you're not really going to have that activation of the street, that visibility onto the street. And we do typically see that if someone tends to turn the units around in front, like on a collector, that we would typically see a less dense streetscape. So it is in opposition to the LDO requirement for residential streetscapes there, which would require a denser rate, but it does somewhat make sense with the orientation of the buildings. I take your point, though. You could really go either way.
Yeah, I'm like,
not convinced.
I may add that, you know, if you have an 18-foot or a 20-foot unit, and you've got a 5-foot or 6-foot walk, that's already 1/3 of your frontage. It may be very difficult to get the plantings that would be required for a type A. I think initially I was maybe concerned about driveways on Wellingborough, but I think the alley solves that. And I think it looked like in this immediate vicinity, most other single-family detached homes actually back up to Wellingborough Drive. So their front doors aren't there, so you don't have differing products facing each other. So I think I'm very happy that we're providing housing choice and some smaller housing types.
Chris?
Yeah, I agree with all the positive comments and agree with the orientation of the buildings, fronting Wellingboro, and the reduction in the buffer. One question I did have, you may have touched on this, but I just might have missed it. What's going to happen with the parcel to the west, it's open space?
It's open space. As of today, it's still open space. We've not had a rezoning filed on that property. We were just made aware at the public hearing. The property owner who owns it has expressed a desire to develop it, but it is not zoned to allow development currently.
Okay, but it's not in the HOA's name,
Correct.
right? So it could be rezoned.
They could ask.
All right, I was just curious about that, but yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, one question, I think there was a comment brought up at one of the public hearings about drainage. So is there anything we should know about drainage? Is there issues, has it been looked into? I mean,
It has, and I believe one of the reasons it comes up, especially in this area, and actually, if you don't mind, I'll pull back up our stream buffer slide because I think it really helps illustrate part of the reason that we hear those concerns. So you can see what's happening to the west of this. There is a very large flood area in portions of the Wellington Park neighborhood, and that's why we do tend to hear concerns about it. This site will have to mitigate just like any other site, so they won't be able to increase that runoff from pre-construction rates. So there should be no impact of development on this site to the flooding issues that some of these homes may experience. You can see how the backs of lots, some of these do back up to stream buffers or flood areas.
okay, great. No other comments?
Yeah, so I think on the flood thing, it comes up all the time, but then believe this goes back to the Piney Plains Road with Crossroads Ford's old, and the body shop and all those paved parking lots back there, that feeds into here. And there was no mitigation at all when those were built. So all those asphalt parking lots just dump water into here. So that's why this has always been a problem. It's not the fault of the houses. It's because we wait for the other one to get redeveloped, I think is what I understand from the neighbors. I want to make another comment too, is that I think that the idea of the frontage, I don't know that you buffer to try to prevent something from being bothered by something else or showing something else here, but we've got the front of houses. I don't know of any place where we buffer the front side of houses. We usually buffer houses from a major road. It's usually the back side of houses, like Mike was saying. So I'd like to look out the front door and be able to see the road rather than see trees. I think that was what I would do, but obviously there's people who feel the other way, but I'm totally happy with that.
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry.
Ruben, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, something Mike said, I wanted to check an assumption. I'm assuming there'd be a sidewalk from the front door to Wellingboro.
That's very likely, yes. They would need to provide some type of pedestrian connection out to that sidewalk. So it's possible if they're fronting the units there, they could each individually have a sidewalk, out to that sidewalk, or they could kind of have a joined sidewalk.
So you say likely, can we make that a requirement?
Sorry, yes, there will be a sidewalk connection. There will have to be some type of pedestrian connection into the site.
Thank you very much.
It just may not be a one-to-one.
Excuse me?
It just may not be a one-to-one. You may have some kind of a
Right, you
sidewalk.
may have
Convergence,
one,
yeah.
or you may have
Yeah.
one per unit.
Yeah.
And again, with that reduced streetscape, you could potentially have individual sidewalks cutting through without
Yeah.
interfering with a dense planting rate.
Got you.
I have another question. I missed this one. So a lot of times we get conditions about with no more than X number of townhouses in one building. I'm assuming because the site's so small, they're not making that assumption. So we could assume there could be 7 next to each other rather than a 4-3 or a 2-5, or we don't, because we're not saying that there's a maximum of units in this. Is that right?
They're detached.
I believe for alley loaded, you can go up to, I want to say it's 7 units per building, so I believe all 7 could be in one. I would need to verify that, but for alley loaded, you can have more units in one building than you can with front loaded units.
Seems like,
I believe it's, Chris Mills, I'm the developer. I believe the max is 5, and our current site plan has 4 and 3, and it has connectivity straight from every front door to the sidewalk.
okay.
Okay, 4 and 3.
Thank you.
But we don't need to make that since maximum is 5, then we don't need, and as long as he's not going to do 5 and 2, okay, I got it.
And to your point, that could be a condition. They could limit it to a max of 4.
Sometimes
That's
people do
the
those.
intent.
Okay, got you, okay.
All right, I don't have any additional questions. So at this point, we would take a motion from someone in the group on 24 REZ 04.
I move that the board find 24 REZ 03.
I'm sorry, I said, it says 04 on my sheet, sorry.
Okay, 03 is consistent with the comprehensive plan and all other applicable plans for the reasons set forth in the staff report, presentation, and the discussion we just had here by the Planning and Zoning Board.
Should we clarify is that we've got the right, I mean, I've got 24 REZ 04 on mine, and the motion here is for 24 REZ 03. Do we?
Is it 03?
It is 03? Okay, just to make sure we get the right motion. So, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any additional comments before we vote? If not, then all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, well then, motion passes. Thank you very much for your presentation. All right, we're going to move on to our last item on the agenda, and that is Act 34, Imagine Cary Community Plan 2024 update. We've got Casey Schumacher Georgopoulos, Community Projects Director, will share the staff's presentation. Since this is a staff-initiated update, there will not be an applicant presentation. Following the presentation, all board members will have an opportunity to ask questions of staff. And Ms. Schumacher Georgopoulos, you may proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, good evening, members of the board. I am here tonight to introduce the 2024 update to the Imagine Cary Community Plan. Now, a little bit of process before we begin. The Imagine Cary Community Plan is Cary's comprehensive plan, and the comprehensive plan serves as a statement of goals, recommendations, and policies guiding Cary's built environment and how to serve the community. Therefore, the comprehensive plan may be amended from time to time to meet Cary's evolving needs. This 2024 update to the Imagine Cary Community Plan is a comprehensive plan amendment to the existing plan, and thereby the adoption process will need to follow the standard comprehensive plan amendment process. That process for completing the update is to hold the public hearing, which was done on October 22nd. Following the public hearing, Council recommended the update to the Planning and Zoning Board for review, and tonight the Planning and Zoning Board may recommend it back to Council for final action and adoption. Now, this comprehensive plan amendment is likely new to many of you. I know you've seen past amendments for Imagine Cary have typically been map amendments to either the growth framework map or to the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Master Plan map. However, amendments like this were anticipated when creating the plan. The Act chapter actually references the need to update the plan occasionally, and the amendments are standard to keep the plan current and acknowledge the changing needs of the community and the built environment. And I'll discuss later on some similar amendments that you'll see as we continue into 2025. So Imagine Cary was adopted in 2017, and again, is Cary's comprehensive plan created by the community. The vision and policies set within the plan remain applicable today and are used in all aspects of Cary's decision-making. Within the existing foundations chapter, the vision established by the community is for Cary to continue to be the community. The interests of residents and businesses will be at the forefront of policies and public investments that foster sustained prosperity. Also within the foundation chapter, it looks at Cary's past and how our community will evolve. It establishes that Cary will retain its existing form, being primarily suburban with its attractive natural and built environment. It will also have strategic locations where we'll see new walkable mixed developments. And we will have to think differently with regards to financing and our revenue generation model. An example is that we'll no longer be able to rely on new residents or new development to cover the costs of our expanding services. And citizen participation was key in the creation of the plan. Since its adoption, the Imagine Cary Community Plan has become our reference in all that we do, from providing high-quality public services, capital planning, financial management, protecting nature and the environment, and managing future land use. The citizen and community leaders who worked so hard to create Imagine Cary knew that periodic updates would be needed. This update of the Imagine Cary plan builds on the strong foundation established in 2017 while incorporating new insights and addressing contemporary challenges. The 2024 update has been in the works for several years, and it is a testament to the importance of Imagine Cary and its vision for Cary's future. The plan will remain much the same as it is today, with some additions, and the update focuses on integrating plans and initiatives already approved by Council, and is not proposing to change the way we are doing things today. The update includes 4 items: the preface, which captures our accomplishments and implementation of the plan since 2017, an update to the Live chapter with the inclusion of the Council-adopted 2021 Cary Housing Plan, adding a new Enrich chapter focused on the environment and Cary's climate action initiatives, updates to the Serve chapter, to acknowledge growing services to the community. And I'll discuss each of these in more detail. So again, the update captures our accomplishments and acknowledges the implementation of the plan and growth of the community since 2017. The preface also documents external factors such as the pandemic, while also sharing Cary's organizational culture, which is based on the highest standards of integrity, fairness, and transparency. The Live chapter is being updated with the inclusion of the 2021 Cary Housing Plan, and the housing plan, created with strong stakeholder engagement, builds upon the policies of the Imagine Cary Community Plan, going beyond the focus of affordability, with goals to ensure that all residents experience Cary's high quality of life. Stakeholders for the Cary Housing Plan included community members, disability advocates, real estate brokers, developers of market rate and subsidized housing, the Western Wake Affordable Housing Action Group, and town staff. The Live chapter includes 7 policies, and 6 of these are existing policies from the original Imagine Cary Community Plan, with 1 new policy being added, which is Policy 7, to pursue regional and nonprofit partnerships to meet housing needs. The third item is the new chapter called Enrich. The Enrich chapter consolidates all sustainability, climate action, and environmental policies, and reflects Cary's commitment to preserving and protecting our finite natural resources. The environment is not new to Imagine Cary. This actually builds on the existing environmental focus that was included in the original Serve chapter and incorporates the work and actions of our environmental planning initiatives. The Urban Forestry Master Plan, approved by Council in May, is integrated into this chapter. The plan gathered feedback through professional and stakeholder workshops, a public open house, interviews with elected officials, community members, and industry professionals, the Tree Advisory Committee, input from the Environmental Advisory Board, and a Cary staff workshop. Stakeholder engagement, I turned the page, but not the slide. All right, stakeholder engagement provided essential and foundational information for the formation of the plan. And you'll see 2 other additional plans included here, the first being the Climate Action Strategy Plan and the second being the Open Space Plan. These plans are currently under development and are identified as actions within the Enrich chapter. These planning processes have also gathered feedback across multiple engagement efforts to create strategies reflective of our community needs and priorities. We anticipate bringing these plans to Council early next year, and if amendments are necessary for the Enrich chapter based on these plans, staff will conduct a comprehensive plan amendment again for the Enrich chapter. And I want to pause here and kind of talk about what do some of these additions of the amendment mean for you as the Planning and Zoning Board. So you'll see a new section in the analysis for rezoning cases for the Enrich chapter. Tonight you saw several environmental policies that are currently in the Serve chapter about urban forests or energy action, and so those would now be brought forward to you in the Enrich chapter. Also, you may see conditions offered by a developer based on the policies of the Enrich chapter, and you may also see staff bring forward LDO amendments with regards to our environmental initiatives within the Serve chapter and those policies. So there are 10 policies included in the Enrich chapter. 7 of these come from the original Serve chapter, and 3 of these policies are new. And those new policies include involve the community in environmental stewardship strategies for a sustainable future. Policy number 7, implement and promote green building principles. And then policy number 10, support soil regeneration, use of native plants, and increase biodiversity for pollinators and wildlife. And now the 4th item in the update is to the Serve chapter, which focuses on our operational model as we strive for excellence in serving the Cary community. Cary has continued to evolve since Imagine Cary's adoption. Specific updates to this chapter include the creation of 311 and leveraging our use of technology, the use of remote inspections and our evolving development processes, the work of the Human Relations Inclusion and Diversity Board, whose mission is to improve the quality of life and sense of belonging for the Cary community. And this chapter continues to highlight the community's needs for high quality and well-managed infrastructure, public safety, and resilience planning. The SERV chapter includes 6 policies, and 5 of these are existing policies, with 1 new policy being added, and that is provide equitable, inclusive, and high-quality services to support citizens and development. And as I mentioned, there are several other planning initiatives currently underway. Other chapters will be amended as new plans and initiatives come forward, or as a holistic review and update of the chapters are needed. Much like the incorporation of the Cary Housing Plan, with this update, future plans will also be incorporated. For example, the Engage and Move chapter will be updated following the approval of the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Master Plan and the Cary Bike Plan. And I mentioned this update has been in the works for several years. We first engaged the boards and commissions in the spring of 2023, letting them know we were working on an update to Imagine Cary. As directed by council, engagement for this update was focused on the boards and commissions, and this was intentional because of the update. The update incorporated council already approved plans and initiatives that were the results of extensive stakeholder and citizen engagement. During this period, staff presented an overview of the draft to all 10 boards and commissions at their February meetings in 2024, or earlier this year, and then staff offered to return to at their March meetings to receive feedback. And I returned to the Environmental Advisory Board in June to review edits made to the Enriched chapter based on the input and community feedback we received. And throughout this process, we've also welcomed additional community feedback. So the draft was initially posted for public review earlier this year from January to March for 60 days. And we received feedback from the boards and commissions as well as online public comments, and these focused on updating our demographic information in the LIVE chapter, addressing housing affordability, environmental impacts related to population growth, adding a policy on native species, and then preserving existing habitats and the urban forest. In July, we presented an overview of the update at a regular council work session. And following the council work session, we heard from 4 citizens with regards to limiting development, reducing allowed building heights, fees that are paid by the developers, opportunities to engage in future plans, as well as just general information on Imagine Cary. Leading up to the public hearing, notification of the draft update was provided in the BUD newsletter, as well as This Week in Cary. We emailed back out to all the boards and commissions that the update was available for review, and we were moving towards the public hearing. We also updated the project website, sent direct emails to citizens who had been engaged in the process, and also Councilmember Bush and Mayor Weinberg filmed a Cary Matters segment to highlight the update, which was posted to social media and on the website. 3 citizens spoke during the public hearing. Citizens raised concerns about clear cutting and new developments and requested a more defined approach to urban forest preservation. They noted that language from the 2017 Imagine Cary Community Plan was missing from the update, and policies in the Enriched chapter and Urban Forest Master Plan lacked specific goals. We did not receive any questions from council at the public hearing. And then following the public hearing, you as the Planning and Zoning Board have received from citizens requesting to strengthen the Enriched chapter and align the updates with the plan's original policies, highlighting the community's responsibility to protect the urban canopy and could benefit from greater detail. Residents recommended clearer expectations, stronger language for policy enforcement, and incentives for private landowners to address growth and environmental impacts in Cary. Based on citizen impact and re-review of the policies, we do propose adding additional text to policy number 8, the preserve and protect the urban tree canopy, and as noted in your staff report. The language that was removed from 2017 has been added back in, and we've also added more detail on how to achieve the policy. So as I wrap up, I would like to remind you again that this is a comprehensive plan amendment, and we're following the comprehensive plan amendment process. We held the public hearing on October 22nd. The board is considering the amendment tonight, and with the opportunity to send it back to council for review and adoption.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I have one
I'm
more.
sorry, I'm
Sorry, one
sorry.
more thing to wrap up
Yeah,
with.
yeah, sure.
So you're reviewing this against the standards of review listed in the LDO, which are based on these 4 items but are not limited to those. And so just a staff statement on those is, Imagine Cary acknowledges that the amendment to the plan to address conditions not anticipated during the planning process would be needed. The 2024 update builds on the strong foundations established in 2017 and incorporates new insights and emerging challenges. Therefore, standards 2 and 3 apply to this update. This update incorporates the 2021 Cary Housing Plan, which looks closer at housing needs and affordability than the initial LIVE chapter. Creating the Enrich chapter calls for the direct attention and new policies focused on the environment outside of the Serve chapter, and the preface discusses what has changed and what we have learned since the adoption of Imagine Cary, and the Serve chapter ensures Cary's evolving services are accurately captured. And that does conclude my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. No, you're fine.
But no, I appreciate that. I guess, just to mix it up a little bit, we could start with you, Sean, and go that way if you have any questions or comments.
Thank you for putting the language back in, with that concern. I would say I would ask with the 2 additional plans that are coming out relative to the Enrich chapter, is there still that feeling with those to protect, because they impact the canopy and the tree development with those 2. Is that flavor being incorporated into those as well?
Yes, I would say yes, and there's still public engagement happening around both of those plans. You're going to receive a presentation, I think either in December or January, on the Sustainability and Climate Action Plan, and staff is still developing the open space plan, which would look at more additional criteria for preserving natural environment.
Thank you, and thanks for all the hard work.
Thank you.
Let's go down this way, Mike.
Yeah, no, I don't have any questions. I did just want to thank you for all the hard work you and your team are putting together on this, especially on the housing and housing choices and ADUs and all those things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've got no questions.
Sal, anything?
Well, my first comment is, life sure has changed from 2017, right, till now. So, great work to get this done. Just a couple questions. So you've got a climate action strategy coming up, is that right?
That's correct.
Is that going to be addressing sort of, the changing climate, natural disasters, what's going on with weather in the world, like what happened in Western North Carolina? Who would have thought that, right? So will you be addressing those kinds of things?
It does include several different areas of focusing on the environment. So it includes natural resources, looks at transportation. So it looks at how do we start to mitigate our carbon footprint. So and water and is part of that as well. So I think to plainly answer your question, yes.
Okay. What is a remote inspection?
So when you make an improvement on your home and you have to then ask for the inspector to come out and inspect it. During COVID, we actually piloted this initiative with the state or with the Department of Insurance, where our inspectors for the building code were able to actually have the contractor walk through the development or through the home and show them the improvements they were making and be able to sign off or result that inspection that day without having to be on site. So that was first tested out during the pandemic and has actually grown in use across the state since.
So that's with video?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So being able to FaceTime, the contractor could FaceTime the inspector
Yeah, okay.
to result
You
the
have to have-
inspection.
I got to experience it firsthand.
Oh, yeah?
Just a few weeks ago with an EV charger installation. It was fantastic.
Great, saved you some time.
Oh, yeah.
Great, okay. Yeah, one other question is, with the recent defeat of the bond issues, are you guys considering that? I mean, that just happened, you guys have been into this process for months now. I mean, is it time to sort of incorporate what just happened in the plan?
Within this, I would say that question did come up around the LIVE chapter and incorporating the housing plan. With that, the housing plan is already adopted, and the programs that are the programs that we would have funded with the additional housing bond are already in place and used. So it would have been able to grow and scale some of those programs. But we see those as still necessary programs, and some of those have been long-term programs that Cary has offered its citizens. So at this time, we don't see a need to change the direction that we have on housing affordability and the programs and services used to serve our citizens who have needs. It's just looking at how much additional should be invested in that.
Okay, what about on the parks?
On the parks, well, tonight we're not bringing forward the Parks Master Plan, and and there is some directional shifts that we had to consider for that.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you though for the work.
All right, thanks, Al.
Great
No
job.
questions. I just appreciate the engagement and the process, and Cary, and
Thank you.
thanks for all your work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do appreciate your work, and I super appreciate the citizen involvement. I think to have citizens that delve into this so deeply, and as they pointed out in the public hearing, some things that were omitted or changed, and then they've been added back in. I think this just shows that you don't fight City Hall, you collaborate, and it's just gives me a good feeling about what we're doing here. I guess also back to what Sal was talking about, when you talk about climate change, we talk about the new, not the new thing, but things in the news a lot, the heat islands, realizing that when they take bikers all around town and take temperatures, they realize there's a variance of 5 to 7 degrees around Raleigh or whatever. This is the kind of thing that's in you're talking about in this other chapter, right? Or the work that's going on.
Correct. Yeah. So climate change overall, the heat island effect is addressed not only it's in the Urban Forest Master Plan, it's talked about in the Climate Action Plan, as well as we have it in the Open Space Plan.
I noticed, that's great. And then I noticed as we get older, and we talk about historic homes, some of them don't seem so historic, right? They seem like they're new homes, right? Is that what happens? But it is, because I see something about it, as we look at historic homes, and working on it, does that mean that we adjust what historic or the age of a home? Because it used to be like it was like turn of the century, but not 2000, turn of the 1900. Is there thoughts what do you guys have in your minds when you start by historic? What goes for historic, or is?
Well, there is a historic number of years like 50 years is an established time frame for when determining a property is historic, based on like a national standard.
Okay.
For Cary, you're right. A lot of our homes have been built, since the 1980s. But just looking at where do some of those market rate homes fall, which are typically what we're seeing in that more natural occurring rate, or as well as just looking at where we have pockets of affordability based on the age of the home, or where people in need who might have been a long-term residence may have a need.
Well, thank you. I'd heard the 50-year number, then I realized that basically that would make the split levels in Scottish Hills historic, and they don't look historic to me. I don't know how you guys look at that. But I did know we've got to keep updating that as we go through. So in regards to the comments from the public hearing about the specific and concrete policies, these are going to be fleshed out in these action plans for the climate and other parts. But, is it get down like when you think about a type A buffer, what's in it? Don't you have to wrap your arms around what these specific and concrete things need to be? And then do they eventually go in as an act and go into this? Is that what we're going to see down the road?
So what I would anticipate seeing more so is that an LDO amendment. So the Imagine Cary Community Plan is more of a high-level vision document. And so there are, and it does flex in direct action versus higher-level policy. in certain areas. But for your regulatory requirements, those really belong in the land development ordinance. And so I think what I would anticipate in the future is more of those coming forward. I know Leslie, our urban forester, is looking at the potential to amend the ordinance based on the urban forest master plan, as well as policy direction out of the Imagine Cary community plan. There will be another series of actions that you'll see coming out of the sustainability and climate action strategy, as well as the open space plan as that moves forward.
So it's like, when we look at I was thinking about tonight, the ones we reviewed tonight, we looked at one that we said, okay, it's 2.02 houses per acre, so it kind of fits. We don't have things that say they're 40 hardwood trees per acre, right? We don't do that type of, but in the master plan, I mean, in the Imagine Cary, we do imagine this is averages 2.5 houses per acre, this averages, whatever. But we have those averages in there, but we don't have averages about trees or those kinds of things in there.
We don't. And that's potentially something that you could look at as a regulatory item in the future. And I think that's part of the work that the urban forestry or the urban forest plan.
That's what I was getting at. That's going to be filled in, you're saying, is that more of that may be filled in down the road, but not in this 30,000-foot level. So eventually it may be a 10,000-foot level that we come in and get closer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then I think that's it. Thank you so much. Appreciate all your work.
Ruben, anything?
Just a couple of praises, really. I really like that y'all use examples from other places across the nation. You might even have some international examples in here that I didn't catch. I think it just exemplifies Cary's desire to do whatever's best and best practices from wherever you can learn them. And it reminds me of why I moved here 18 months ago. It just embodies everything that's great about life and living.
Let me tell you one of that. We met our neighbors last night. We met somebody last night that moved in July, and they said, we lived in Fort Lauderdale, we lived in this place in Pennsylvania, and we didn't know a place existed that we were looking for until we moved to Cary, and they moved in. It's a cool thing.
That's wonderful. And welcome, Ruben.
That's great. And I guess along those lines, similar with what Ruben and Ken were saying, it's just a matter of, this is a global issue. We're a small community. Our impact is going to be fairly limited locally, but so we're going to incorporate these things as we think about future development, but are there metrics that we're going to gauge ourselves on, and as we move forward, kind of how will we measure success relative to this initiative?
For the climate action specifically, that does have metrics that they're following and that will come forward within that plan.
Gotcha. I am, and just one other thing that this is a pet peeve, not pet peeve, this is a passion of mine over a long time and something that maybe gets lumped in, but litter abatement, that's an environmental concern. And so when you drive up and down certain places, you see there's issues and not. And so that would just be a comment from me that if some way to incorporate some inclusion, because there's impacts to animals and it gets into the system and the water and all those types of things. So some incorporation to a litter abatement strategy may be warranted.
Yeah, I forgot one thing. So when we talk about things change and what drives these amendments, the redo, it's been a long time since 2017. Why 2024? Will it be, is it really number of years, or is it as we get, less land developable, or is it as we cross the 200,000 population barrier? Where are the things, because I guess we're on track to exceed our, what we in the original Cary Community Plan, we're going to hit the 2040 population in like 2032 or something. So is it just comes up, something has to drive you guys to say it's time to do it again, and if you could speak to that a little bit.
Correct. And Imagine Cary originally called out doing a 5-year and a 10-year update. What we're seeing is that the world is changing faster, and our community is growing faster than what we had anticipated. And so looking at, as we take on new planning initiatives, so like the housing plan, like the climate action plan, the urban forest plan, updating those chapters at the time that those plans are coming forward. So it's similar with the bike plan and updating then those specific chapters with regards to those plans as they come forward.
But the
There-
major overhaul, the next year number or whatever,
We're moving away from that, and I think there will be time where we will decide when an overhaul is completely needed. We're getting back to the point where pre-Imagine Cary, we had a lot of plans, and those were all incorporated into Imagine Cary. Again, we're getting to that point where we have a lot of plans, we're trying to incorporate them into Imagine Cary. But some of those, still, there's several actions within those plans that we don't want to lose, that the community has just weighed in on and given input to. And so, again, I think balancing the creation of topic-specific plans, but making sure that the goals and the policies of those plans are reflected in Imagine Cary will be how we continue to go about updating the plan. And there'll probably be that sweet spot where we think, ooh, it's time to go back and do this all over again.
I appreciate it, thank you.
If no additional questions or comments, I guess we would seek a motion to move forward with adopting Act 34 to the Imagine Cary Community Plan.
I move that the board forward the Act 34 amendments to the Cary Community Plan to Town Council with a recommendation for approval to amend the Cary Community Plan as proposed.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Casey.
And I guess I need to probably with that say that our meeting is now called to adjourn.
No,
Is
we-
now adjourned. Oh, I'm
we
sorry.
do
Oh,
have-
no.
we-
We had, I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. We have a, one other item of business. We need someone in case I get hit by a bus next month or can't make it to fill in. So let's do that. Sorry, I got my papers out of order here. Anyway, so we're, at this point, we would look for making a, here we go, they're behind here. Finding
We need a
a
nomination for the vice chair.
nomination for the vice chair, correct?
I'd like to nominate Mike Roselli for vice chair.
Second the nomination.
Third. Yeah, me too. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Mike, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we just had, the meeting schedule for 2025. I mean, it was in the packet, so hopefully, we don't need to vote on that, but we just wanted to make people aware, and if there's any glaring errors or problems with the calendar.
Does anyone have any comments or questions? I think we can probably all accommodate that with that fair warning. Thank you. And, all right, no discussion. Now it's time to tell everyone thank you for participating in the meeting, and we can call it adjourned. Thank you.